the street, up and down the block, around the clock. We're gonna rock the dreams you give if the streets could talk. Wanna be somebody, be a contender. Gotta reach for the sky. If you want it, fight for it, or kiss it goodbye. It's make it or break it. Try to survive. Don't ever say never. Keep your dream alive. Around the clock.
He's Blake. I'm Ronnie. All the good names are taken. Podcast live. Blake, it's been an eventful couple of days. How's everything going?
It's going good. It's going really good.
We got to get way better at our banter before we actually start the review, or either we got to learn to get right into the review. One of two things. Big weekend this weekend. We got to return the favor to the Slaughtered Lamb. They came on our show a few months ago, and we went on theirs. And I got to admit, they are way better at this podcasting thing than we are. All aspects or facets of podcast dumb. Yeah. I think they're way better. Way better.
I think I tweeted that after they put out that short. I mean, Darren and Frank are just masters at editing, and they took some of the best parts of that podcast and put it into a brilliant short with clips from the movie and music from the movie. And God, man, it was fantastic. It just made me realize, what big pieces of shit we are.
Edit.
Oh, we're live. I forgot.
Yeah, we're live. Edit. So, yeah, it was a good time. And, I guess now's a good time to say it's just me and you for a while. No more appearances. No more going on shows. Just me and you focusing on this channel. And we'll see what happens in 3 or 4 months. Got a long slate of videos that we have to make, Blake. We have some taped content that we have to make here pretty soon. We've got Commando that we have to review for the Patreon. It'll be a first Patreon video in forever that somebody has requested. And remember, for $1 on the Patreon, you can request any movie and we will review it. Almost any movie. It's got to be appropriate. Yep. So
that includes Spice World and Crossroads.
Yes. I think we reviewed at least one of those.
Spice World.
On the audio podcast. That was not a fun time at all because that movie really sucks. There's no way to make that funny.
When Ronnie found out we were reviewing Spice World, he made the same face that George Bush did when they whispered about 9/11 in his ear in that classroom.
All right, so on our Twitch page, Blake, we got some fan interaction already. Let's see what we got going on here.
Oh, I didn't even know we had a Twitch page.
Makes $20 and asks, what did you guys think about Halloween Ends?
Hey, Jake Blaster donating $20. Want to know what we think about Halloween Ends. What'd you think, Blake?
We talked about that last October.
Yeah, I thought it was great. All right, so let's get
I thought it was the best movie in the franchise.
It doesn't get much better than Halloween Ends. I'm just going to say that right now. If you don't like it, there's something wrong with you. So here we go. We got, okay, so far we're in the chat real quick. We got Nick Push. We got Shape of Heart. We got Bud in there. We got a couple people in there watching. So immediately after this one, or if we go along, you guys tune out of this show and go watch Shape of Heart podcast. They are talking 90s music, Blake.
Oh my gosh. And think about that, Ronnie. Think about how many good songs of every genre was made in the 90s, and they got to narrow it down to a top 10 list. I don't know if I could do it.
I could think of 10 Third Eye Blind songs.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, Blink 182 and
exactly.
And listen, I know you wouldn't have it, but I'm an 86 model. I mean, Backstreet Boys and NSYNC would make my list.
Well, that's insane. Well, there are a couple of NSYNC songs now, years later, that you can like sit there and laugh to, and like Dirty Pop.
Well, I mean, it doesn't make my list now, but what I'm saying is at the time, that was what life was all about, Well,
back then, it was about TRL, watching MTV, Total
yes.
Who the top 10 video is going to be. So, hey.
Well, who was the host of that with a big old hog?
Edit. Jeez.
Oh, you got Nick Push in here. Hey, you were talking about how busy we were. I was on Nick Push's channel last night for his celebrating 3,000 subs.
Yeah, Nick Push had a creative idea where he actually had people roast himself. The only thing about it is he only had 3 people to roast him, which is, I don't know, it's kind of sad. He should have had like 50 people. I know there's like 50 or 60 people that show up to watch that dude's show every time he goes live. So he should have had the listeners, the viewers.
You're part of that problem, though. He specifically asked you to be a part of it, and you said no.
I'm not a comedian. I can't do that and it'd be funny. I can't even do this and it'd be funny.
I gotta have pictures of Nick Push with bleached hair because he loved NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, and New Kids on the Block. I gotta see that picture, and I know it exists, Nick.
I guarantee you he bleached his hair because Pacey bleached his hair in Dawson's Creek.
Do you think it was an Eminem thing or a pop thing?
It was either Dawson's Creek or Eminem. I think you've narrowed it down. Can you imagine what he looked like with bleached hair? He probably got that photo of CM Punk that goes around where he's standing there next to Steve Austin. And you have no idea what I'm talking about.
No, I do.
This is even sadder. He said it was Timberlake. He wanted to be like Timberlake.
Well, I mean, I think everybody did at one point.
Don't feel bad, Nick. I dyed my hair too. That's the reason I went bald. Blake, tonight we're reviewing one of our favorite movies.
This is not like a humble brag or anything, but I've lost so much weight. I'm going to need a smaller shirt if you can make that happen.
I just left the tax man, and he wanted to know, have you spent money on merch for your podcast, which we consider a business? And I told him there was no need. We still had 40 shirts from the last time we bought 40 shirts, and none of them sold. So I told him no merch. Though I do think this. I do think us with a new shirt with the new logo up in the top corner there, I think that'd be pretty cool looking. And we may look into doing something like that.
Yeah, and maybe get that like VHS logo on the back of it or something.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So we may look into it. We got to have people that want to buy it, though. Otherwise, it's just me and you are the only 2 people that own it. I think Nick Push owns a medium.
Well,
one specially made.
Yeah, it was way too big for him, too. The thing about we're bad businessmen though, because we would give a shirt to Nick, we would probably give a shirt to Bud, we would probably send Darren. Well, we wouldn't send Darren one, but we would probably send Frank a shirt. It wouldn't make no money off of it,
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I mean, here's the way I look at merch. Everybody that's a Patreon, I've sent a shirt to. So
except for Darren.
You think Darren would wear one?
I think Darren would wear one, but getting it to Darren is the issue.
Yeah, he's not going to give up that address. So I'd send it to Frank, and then Frank would end up sleeping in it. It would go to like his knees or something.
See, Bud just asked in the chat, Ronnie, how do I purchase one of these shirts? And my instinct, my bad business instinct, say, Bud, you're an American hero. Don't worry about it. We got you, Bud. All we need is your address. And that's bad business.
It's real bad business considering there's no shirts left. So I don't know what we do. You can send him. You can send him your shirt. So I don't know, Bud. We'll have some shirts, and you'll get one for half off. We'll do it like that. Nothing's for free. Though I think we can send. If we send one to Nick Push for free, on the Bud for free if we get one made. But yes, don't worry about it. Super excited. I'm super excited. We reviewed Porky's on the audio podcast back in our early stages of learning how to do this.
Did we?
Yes, we had Cooley on, remember?
I remember that because we reenacted the principal scene with Ball Breaker describing it. I remember it now.
He caught a cramp while he was sitting on a stool, and he fell off. And we had to stop the show because he's like the only person in the history of the world to catch a cramp on a podcast. But with all due respect to Cooley, I didn't think that review went as well as I thought it could go if it was just me and you, because he was like putting on a show. He was like being a character instead of just being a couple of guys talking one of their favorite movies. And that guy's seen Porky's just as much as I have. So, I mean, he's not as in detail as about Bob Clark and directing this movie, and it's based off people he's known throughout his life and things like that. But I mean, I thought the podcast should have been a lot better, and I'm hoping we give the people that's going to watch this a little bit better show talking about Porky's this time around. So
how do you go from making Porky's to A Christmas Story?
Well, I'm sure you read it. The only way he could get A Christmas Story made, the studio execs, Porky's was such a box office hit. It was like #1 for like 6 weeks in a row in 1980. 81 or 82, Blake? Which one was it?
81. But I also read, Ronnie, that this movie was filmed in the late 70s and sat on the shelf for like a year and a half or 2 years. Because I was going to make the joke about the Schwartz guy who was also in Caddyshack.
Mm-hmm.
He was 30 when this movie got released. Everybody else was like mid-20s, but he was actually older than the young coach in this movie.
Back to me being the worst movie watcher, I do think Caddyshack is not as great as most people make it out to be. I think certain parts of it are great. I didn't know Brian Schwartz was the caddy until I started doing research for this. I just never put the two of them together. I just never did. I never thought this guy that plays Rico or whatever his name is in Caddyshack was Brian Schwartz, who drove.
You're talking about Noonan.
No. Is it Noonan?
No, Nunzio.
Yeah, Nunzio. No Neck Nunzio. So, I mean, like I said, this is the first I'm hearing of it being filmed in the late 70s. I did read some stuff about how this was shown to kids in junior high to stay away from certain situations, but I didn't know it sat on the shelf. I do know it was such a successful hit that the only way he could get a Christmas Story made, because studios didn't want to have anything to do with a Christmas Story, was he had to agree to direct and write Porky's 2 so they could put that out. So we got the classic Christmas Story because Porky's 2 needed to exist. Porky's 2, that's a different story for a different review. Not a huge fan of Porky's 2.
Ronnie, I've never seen 2 or 3.
Porky's 2 is The Next Day, which is a great subtitle to that. Picks up the absolute next day, and it's more of a race-based story. You know, they get into it a little bit.
Were they like racing boats or cars or?
The Ku Klux Klan is after the Native Americans in the area.
That race.
Yes, that race. So it turns into them helping the Native Americans take down the racist. So, and then part 3 gets right back to it being great, where Porky's is now set up on a boat. So they have to try to crash that boat after Meat gets kidnapped by Porky's. I love this trilogy. I love the trilogy. I really do. But I mean, I'm the first one to say when we review Porky's 3, I'm going to get like all emotional at the end of it, because playing clips and showing or playing the credits and they're showing like all the clips from the different movies. You're like, this is over. You know, this is the last Porky's movie, and this is the last time these guys are going to be together until they made Baby Geniuses. So there you go.
Hey, I was going to make this comparison. I'm going to go ahead and get it out of the way and see what you think. I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like after Porky's was made, there really wasn't another movie like that made until American Pie.
It's exactly what I was going to talk about. This movie is such a huge influence to American Pie. It's crazy.
And don't you think like we're due for another movie like this that's just like completely exploitation and raunchy and deals with tons of teen sex and stuff like that? Don't you think we're due for that, especially right now in today's climate?
What was the last one we had? Superbad? I think all these teen comedies now are so raunchy that I think the next evolution is for them to go back to the 90s and start making the wholesome teen comedies again. And then we get it back into more filth. But the way things go right now, I mean, it may just be because I think we've wore out the raunchy teen comedy throughout the 2000s. You know, from American Pie on, we've had a ton. Euro Trip, we've had a ton of just raunchy teen comedies that I think now is starting to get back. We need to get back to the wholesome teen comedies, and then we'll come back. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, you know, and Nick Push just put in the chat that Me Too destroyed any chance of that, and I disagree. I think now is the time we need it most. It's like Anthony Michael. Bud's the best. It's like Anthony Michael Hall in Dark Knight. You know, we need him now. We need Harvey Dent now more than ever. We need raunchy teen sex movies now more than ever.
We need filth now more than ever. This is a way to get around the Me Too stuff. You just set all these movies in the 80s and 90s.
You're exactly right. And it's so simple to do because you're like, well, it's a different time back then. Boom. Nothing you can do or say.
I mean, Bob Clark set this movie in 1954. And what I'm saying right now, the first note I made in my phone is 1954 in the Everglades looked freaking amazing. It looked amazing. The whole, and you could tell these are all kids that have money, and from their cars to them hanging out at the Sonic every night. I call everything outside Sonic.
Kavanaugh don't have money.
Kavanaugh don't have money.
And I don't think that was Sonic. I think it was Archie's from
License to Drive.
License to Drive.
But I love this movie. This is another review where you get to make fun of me because I just look at the background and it takes me to a place that's so much better. You know, that school looks amazing. The cars are beautiful.
Yeah.
The outfits, even when they're in the old dirty shack that we're going to talk about. We live in the South. We've seen that shack. We've seen those woods and what it's like to run around at night, you know, with your friends just cutting up being stupid. This movie is really good. And back to our original point of talking about this is Bob Clark set this movie in 1954 so he could have some controversial stuff that he could talk about and have the characters talk a certain way. And you could get away with it by saying, guys, it's 1954. It's 1954. Of course they talk like that. Of course they refer to races like that. Of course they refer to Jewish people like that. It was common in the South. So I think, I mean, it's a perfect way for him to get the raunch in there and have a valid excuse for why it's in there in his writing.
Yeah. Well, you know, movies like this, it kind of bumps me out. What's that say, Blake? How old were you when Ronnie had first one? I mean, I was under 10 for sure. I remember we had this on VHS and it was like the legit copy. It wasn't like a recorded copy. But movies like okay, so I've listened to stories, you know, from you and your friends, Ronnie, about y'all's high school's antics and stuff like that. And then I watch a movie like Porky's and I realize, like, I thought I had fun in high school, but I didn't have fun in high school. Like this, I mean, you're laughing, but like this is how you live life. And
this movie's fun. It's so fun.
Like, I want to show my sons this and like, listen, this is what you got to do in high school. Like, I mean, you have as much fun. You have a 4-year window, and probably for my oldest son, a 5-year window to have as much fun as you can. And this is what it's all about, like making memories. And Ronnie is, no, I can't. I was going to say, is this the greatest high school movie? But it's not, is it? It's Breakfast Club.
It depends on your taste. You know, like you ask a wine drinker, what's your favorite type of wine? You know, and it may be
like Stella Rosa,
whatever's in the Olive Garden,
whatever's under $10.
But I think it could be argued, Blake. I think it could be argued that this is one of the greatest teen, if not the greatest teen comedy of all time. You know, you're going to find this really hard to believe. I hold American Pie and American Pie 2 high up there too on movies that I think were big at the time, but have fallen off and now seem to be super underrated on how great they were for the time that they came out.
Oh, I agree, especially American Pie 1, but that also hit you at the sweet spot too, because weren't you like a senior in high school when that came out? So, I mean, that was like perfect timing for you, the whole To the Next Step and Cheersing Your Friends and Saying Goodbye and stuff like that. Nick, about Animal House, I was going to bring this up with Ronnie. I think I think it's the star power, because if you look at this movie and Porky's, it's a real, and Ronnie mentioned before that this was a huge success. This was #1 for a while, even though I think E.T. took it over. But I'm not going to say none of these actors, because we know Kim Cattrall did. But if you look at the IMDb page of every actor on here, they didn't do much. No. There wasn't a lot going on with just about every single one of them. I think Kavanaugh has actually worked the most out of everybody. But I mean, you know, Animal House, you had the dead guy. Who is that? Who's the dead one that Farley loves?
Oh, that would be John Belushi.
You got Belushi, you got Kevin Bacon, you got the guy from Black Sheep. I forget his name. You just got a lot more star power
David
in that
Spade.
one. No, it's not David Spade.
No, look, at the time though, you can argue that those guys weren't big stars except for John. I mean, I think
that's true. That's true. But I think I think like these guys didn't. I mean, all you know these guys from Porky's from is from Porky's 2 and 3.
Yeah, I mean, Meat was one of the bad guys in Die Hard 2. He gets stabbed in the eye with an
That's
icicle.
true. That's true in the church, right?
And Meat is gigantic in this movie. No pun intended. His arms he's got some pipes underneath that shirt. So
My God, the boy's deformed.
He's jacked in this movie. I cannot believe he didn't. And I also didn't know that Porky's was a Canadian-made movie. A completely Canadian-based company came to Florida and made this movie. So this is considered a Canadian movie, just like Meatballs 3 and The Brain. So real quick, I can tell, I'm going to try to answer Nick Push's question. Why do you think Animal House took off in the mainstream more than this one did? I think Porky's could never be really mainstream because of the severe amount of nudity and the severe amount of controversial things that were said and did throughout the movie. Okay. I know there's some nudity in Animal House, but Animal House, you got John Belushi playing Homer Simpson, and you got all these little skits.
It is Homer Simpson.
Yeah. From going on. I mean, and I think that's it. I mean, you've got guys sticking stuff through holes in showers in Porky's. You've got nudity all the time in Porky's. You've got women of the night. You've got gigantic guys with machetes scaring a room full of naked guys out into the woods. You've got a fat Southern guy named Porky who has a brothel out in the middle of the swamp. You've got all of that stuff, and you really can't go and say, hey, let's put this all on a poster and then let's bring all the kids in. But I do think you could have snuck some kids in to see Animal House and it would have been okay. That's just me. I mean, there's just so much nudity. The movie got a rated X. It got an X rating. They had to cut the movie twice to get it down to a rated R. So
listen, I'm a straight male, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't pause that shower scene to see if they really showed it, Ronnie. And that's really it.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that they actually went through with that. So let's get to it, Blake. Let's get to it. So really quickly, you want to see if before we get started, you want to do any kind of fan interaction, see if we got anything going from the Twitch. We got Bud and Nick lighting it up right here for us, and we appreciate it, guys. Let's go over to the Twitch side of things and see.
We watched a movie donates $1 and says, I don't think this podcast name is going to take off like you think it is.
Well, that's your opinion.
Change it.
Thanks for the $1. One more. Hey, this is our buddy Vince.
Vincent DeSanti donates $2 and says, I am 6'3" with a gorgeous head of hair and I run every day and I will kill Tommy Jarvis in my next movie.
Hey, there you go. Hey,
well, we don't think that's a good idea, but thanks for the money.
Yeah, kill Tommy Jarvis in Never Hike Alone 2. Do that, Vincent. Don't do it. All right, Bud's coming through. He thinks Cherry Forever is Bob Clark's wife.
That's not true. Cherry Forever is actually Sheriff Wallace's wife. The actor who played Sheriff Wallace, Porky's brother.
Mongo.
She was married. Mongo from Blazing Saddles. Nice, Ronnie. Very nice. You did do some research. I'm proud of you, buddy.
No, I knew it.
I didn't know it until I did research, but Cherry Forever was married to Mongo, a.k.a. Sheriff Wallace, until he died.
I'm guessing he died like jogging. No, you're talking about Mongo. I was talking about Porky. I wonder how Porky died.
I think it was a parachute accident.
He jumped off the top of his house with an umbrella. He just watched Mary Poppins.
Look at this crew. I mean, it's just sex right here, Ronnie. Just dripping sex. I always thought, personally, I thought Mickey was the best looking out of the bunch, and he probably has the minor role. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Oh, without a doubt, Blake. I think Mickey, he's gorgeous, and if he was that good looking in 23, he'd probably be the next. What's his name? Ryan something another. What's the guy's name that I like so much? That drove the car and driven. What's his name?
Seacrest.
Yes, Ryan Seacrest. But
might have been Milner.
The reason I put this up here is I want to focus on all of them at the same time, because I think as a movie where it's just a big cast, they did a really good job of establishing all of these characters. Like we know from the very beginning of the movie, Pee-wee is the hornball. I mean, the first scene alone where he's doing that stuff that we're not going to talk about sets the tone for not only this movie, but that character. He's wired up wanting a girlfriend. He wants a girl. And then you got Billy, who's the second guy there. Now, Billy, I don't know what to think about Billy because he's sort of the brains in this movie. Like him and Tommy are the brains, and the rest of them are like sort of like maniacs. They're like guide this crew of imbeciles. But Billy is like in and out of there. Like certain times he's right in there with the ranch, like the Cherry Forever, and then other times he's just hanging out with this girlfriend that we never even find out her name. I mean, we find out her name, but she has no purpose of the movie other than be just dancing with him or sitting there with him when they come back from Porky's. So I really don't know what to think about him. And Tommy, his journey in these movies are great because he starts off. I really think he's the main character. Blake, who do you think the main character is out of these 6 people?
I think you have to say it's Pee-wee, Ronnie. The movie opens with Pee-wee. It closes with Pee-wee. I think you have to say that Pee-wee is Dan Monahan's the star of this movie, wouldn't you?
You're probably right on that, but I just think because Tommy is everybody's so focused on Tommy. The girls want him. He's got this battle with Ball Breaker. It seems like he's always coming up with him and Billy both are coming up with all of these tricks to try to get the guys. So, I mean, and I think the last 3 here, they're the secondary characters, even though he's on the Mount Rushmore of Porky's characters. Everybody, you can't think Porky's without thinking Meat. But he's like a secondary character in here other than the meat jokes, him getting naked, and almost drowning in the bowl of chili. Which leads me, and I know I'm talking a lot, jump in whenever you want to, which leads me
I'm going to jump in right now, Ronnie. It's almost 8 o'clock, so anyone watching this needs to log off and go check out Nick and Bud and as they go live to talk about their favorite 90s songs.
All right.
You can catch us on the replay.
So Mickey, he's definitely a secondary character, but he's a character that's needed because he's the brother of the sheriff, and he's also the reason they have to destroy Porky's is because his dumb self keeps going back after Porky plays the prank on him and keeps getting beat up worse and worse and worse till at the very end they break his ribs and collapse his lung and things like that. And then you've got Kavanaugh, who I think a lot of people would write off as not being a really good character in this movie. But I can argue that Tim Kavanaugh is the most complex character of anybody in this movie. He actually has evolution because he starts the movie and he's this giant racist troublemaker. It's only to the Jewish kid. To the rest of these guys, he's just one of the guys. He's a great guy. But we get to see the side of him that this dude has problems. He's a raging racist. He has anger issues. He is the worst kind of Southern person. But then you find out why. He's got a father that's an ex-con that beats him up if he has any negative interaction with other races. He wants him to be tough. He wants him to be a criminal like him. And the evolution of him standing up to his father and then forming a relationship with Brian, I think makes him the most complex character. Maybe not, he's definitely not the main character, but the most complex character and most well-written character of this movie. Wouldn't you think?
Oh, I agree 100%, Ronnie. And I think you could also say it makes this guy, Kavanaugh, who is played by, what's his name? Cyril O'Reilly. It makes him the best actor out of the group of guys, in my opinion. I know Pee-wee's really good. He plays his part really well, but I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it. He's the most complex character. He has so much range. I mean, you get to see rage, you get to see fear, you get to see him upset and crying. And then you get to see him overcome all that and realize that, he's got to get away from his family. He's got to get away from his dad. And
yes,
because even though his dad's all he's got, he's not a good person. And if he's going to be a good person, he's got to break away. And you see that from him. So I think he's the best actor out of the group of guys we got here.
Yeah, and his dad is riding around on his motorcycle with what looks like a 16-year-old on the back. So, I mean, that's crazy in that.
Well, 50s.
So I was going to put, these are the heels. These are the heels of Porky's. I put them all together. You got Miss Bowbreaker, who is the female PE coach, and she hates Tommy Turner. She cannot stand him. They have altercations all throughout this movie where she kicks the tennis or the basketball away. Because believe it or not, I don't think I have a picture. Overall, this series becomes more about basketball than it does anything, because basketball is a central theme in part 2 and part 3. I mean, Porky's trying to rig basketball games in part 3. So, I mean,
It sounds ridiculous.
basketball becomes a really big deal in this Porky's universe. And she's the heel at the school. And then in the middle, you got, I don't think they could have found.
Hey, Ronnie, can I ask you a question real quick about the basketball?
Yeah.
In your opinion, when did football take over? Because football wasn't always the most popular sport. And I agree with Bob Clark here. I think basketball was the most popular sport. No, it'd probably be baseball. But when did football take over that you remember?
I want to say the mid 2000s, where I think right as Tom Brady was coming in, I think football surpassed everything. And I don't know if it's that football got better or is it football stayed the same and basketball got worse and baseball got worse.
But you're right, though. The late 90s had a surge with baseball because of the steroids, and it was fantastic. I mean, I saw anybody could talk about. But so you're thinking it was 2000s?
I think mid 2000s. I know for baseball, mid 2000s is when it started losing its appeal. And I don't think it was baseball as much as people started saying the game was too long. They cleaned it up. So there's no more monsters hitting 80 home runs every year. And basketball, you had Kobe, you had LeBron when they were never going to, they rode some momentum up into a certain point. And then basketball, it slowly drifted out of it still got its fans. It's still going to get its 5-6 million, but football just took off like a juggernaut. Everybody wanted football. They wanted all the football. They wanted it on every might. So, and it might probably has a lot to do with college football feeding into it on Saturday, and Sunday. So, basketball don't really have that. Baseball don't really have that.
All right. I'm sorry. I derailed you though. You was about to go on a spiel about Porky.
No, I don't think you could have got a better looking Porky than this guy right here. When I think Porky's, I think this guy's fat face with his huge chest and his cowboy hat. He's got the perfect Southern voice. I don't think you could have done any better than that. And then you got his a-hole brother over here who's a quote-unquote sheriff of Wallacestown, which is like a road. And, man, he plays a perfect heel as well. So I just wanted to, those first couple of slides, I just want to introduce the characters and let us talk about that a little bit. So if you're ranking real quick, Blake, how do you rank these guys right here from most important to least important? You'd like me to go first?
No, I'll go.
To the story.
This is tough, Ronnie, because I think Mickey is important because he's the reason the movie takes place, right? I mean, Let's just be honest.
If he hadn't told them about Porky's, they never would have went out there. If he hadn't got beat up, they never would have went and took it down. But like you said, Pee-wee's there. It's the journey for Pee-wee to get with a girl.
Yeah. So I'm going to go most important to least important, Ronnie. I'm going to go Mickey, Pee-wee, Tommy, Kavanaugh, Meat, Billy.
All right. See, I would put Billy towards the end too. See, I'll go Pee-wee, Tommy, Mickey, Meat, Kavanaugh, Billy. So I don't know how close that was to yours, but that's just the way I see it. That's the way I see it. But I love all these characters. I don't want to say, I don't make it look like I'm downing any of these characters. I love them. All right, and here's your side characters. You got the sheriff, who is Mickey's brother, as Ted. You got Lassie. You got Kavanaugh's father over there to the right, and you got the two coaches at the bottom, who are absolutely hilarious throughout this whole thing. You got the young guy on the left there, and he's constantly getting tortured by the coach on the right, you get her upstairs. You'll find out why they call her Lassie. Which leads, I wish this was not a clean show because I'd ask so many questions. How does he know that? How many times has she been up there? Has she been up there with him, with students? I mean, how do people, because the students know about it too, because when they're up there, you can see Wendy doing this right here, like the Lassie chant. So Lassie is apparently a well-known nickname for this person. So, I mean, they're great. They're great here. They're great when the Lassie scene happens. They're great in the principal's office when Balbreaker's wanting the lineup. they're really good and they're really funny and they add a lot to this movie. I think they're the best two side characters that there are in the movie.
The teachers do it during class, Ronnie.
It was 50s. They didn't know any better. So the movie starts off, and we're going to cover this, guys, because, we've talked in depth about the characters, but now we want to talk about the hijinks, because overall, when it comes down to it, Porky's is about hijinks, and it's about destroying Porky's bar.
Who's this peckerhead on the end here?
Okay, so I don't know his name. I know he has a bigger role in Meatballs 2 because the movie. Okay, I'll wait till we get there. Let's go ahead and get there. All right. So this scene right here, the first big prank or the second big, we got to talk about the first prank first. It's going to mess it up if I don't. First big prank in the movie is Tim is throwing these eggs up in the air, and he throws one and it busts. And Pee-wee's like, what's the deal with these eggs? And he smashes one over Pee-wee's head, and it's a hard-boiled egg. And, Pee-wee wants to be the popular guy. He wants to be the guy doing all the tricks. He's like, hey, let me try it. And they say, okay, well, we haven't done it to meat yet. So he gives him 2 regular eggs, and he smashes one over Meat's head, and he takes off running. Meat's going to kick his tail. But to answer your question, this guy in the back here, he shows back up in Porky's 2 playing a zombie. All right. Because I think if you think about iconic scenes in Porky's, you think about what happens in the aftermath of this. Like Billy and Tommy and Mickey play a trick where they tell them they found a woman of the night, Cherry Forever, and she lives out in the woods and her husband's not going to be home, and them and all their friends can come in and they can be with Cherry Forever. And they get them all nude. They have her walk out there and inspect everybody, and they're all super happy that a woman's there. Then the thing that's great is they've paid this guy that works for Tommy's dad to come in here and bust in with a machete and scare everybody. When I say bust in, guys, he kicks the door. He walks through the door, and in a clip that we can't show, nudity everywhere as naked teen boys run out into the night. Mickey's dying out laughing. They get outside and see it's a joke. And Billy's like, I think Meat's still running. Let's go. And that guy takes the machete and goes running up into the night to try to chase who's left. But I'm going around the world to get to this part for you right here, Blake. The peckerhead on the right that you're talking about. The iconic scene that we were discussing is the cops going down the road, slow night. And then all of a sudden they see a naked guy run by on the other side of the road. In part two, they get Pee-wee out to the cemetery. And they have the guy on the right here dressed up like a zombie, drunk, come out of the ground and scare Pee-wee while he's trying to be with a girl. And Pee-wee takes off running naked. And you get the same scene in part 2 of Pee-wee running down the dirt road with the cops driving by. So that's the only reason I know anything about that guy is because he plays a zombie in part 2. And like he's keeping the whole gimmick as he's wandering up.
They pull Pee-wee over and they're like, all right, pull over. Show us your wallet. And he's naked. He's naked. Like, give us your wallet.
It's great scene. Like, here it is right here. The look on their face when they see this naked guy running down the street. And it's the backwoods of the Everglades back in the day, back in the 50s. There's no telling what kind of Sasquatches and everything else are back in.
There's gators everywhere. Listen, I was at the Everglades in 2017, and it was scary how often you saw these big old iguanas and alligators just all over the place, man.
Hey, real quick, Backtrack Cinema's in the chat. Hey, dudes. Hey, I believe he's a new subscriber, Blake. He came over from our appearance Sunday. So glad to have you. Check out the content. Make yourself known. Glad to have you here, bud.
Backtrack Cinema. Good to meet you, buddy.
Here's more of the scenery I like to talk about. Every place they're eating looks like the perfect place in the 50s. It almost looks out of place. It's so perfect. Like they're constantly just always somewhere hanging out. This is the closest knit group of guys or friends. And we all had friends like this. I hope people watching this had friends. Like everybody's got 4 or 5 really good friends that are interchangeable. At least I think most people do. I would like to think most people had that.
Hey,
And-
Ronnie, are you positive that this is a clip from part 1?
No, I'm not. But I think it is. The hair looks different, doesn't it?
Pee-wee
Oh.
just looks a little older.
It could be from part 2, but it's everything's still the same, so don't worry about it. Here's the hangout right here, and it's like it's you can tell. There's the I'm pointing, like people can see me pointing to the screen right now. There's the road, and off to the side, everything's right on the strip by the beach. Everything is on the strip by the beach, and it's just the perfect town to live in. Hey, look at this, Blake. Return of the Living Fled. Hey, Ronnie. Hey, Blake. What's going on, bud?
What's up, man?
Glad to have you here. So most of the movie takes place here with the guys scheming and hanging out and causing hijinks. So here's the next big one. So there's multiple gigantic pranks all throughout this movie.
Hey, so let's go ahead and get into this theory I got. Do you think they created this, Ronnie, or do you think this is something that's been passed down to them, like American Pie with the book? You know?
Yeah, I think American Pie got the book idea from this. I do not think this was passed down. I think Bob Clark does a good job of showing where these kids have pretty much chiseled out this open place right here, one cinder block at a time, so they can try to find where the area is that they can look through the wall with the girls actually taking showers. I think this is something they created, and this is why it's a big deal, is because this is the build up to them finally getting down there and actually seeing it. Because if it's been passed down from generation to generation, then they would already have been in the shower room watching them. But this is the first time they go in there, and it's like, this is the rewards for them creating this like little pleasure room right here, this piece of heaven for them as they can spy on the girls.
Ronnie, every time in a movie where there's a fat woman or a fat girl cast, you always play it out in your head, and you're like, I just want to know what this person was thinking as they're reading the part for this fat woman. Well, you're about to have someone audition for the role of fat naked teenager.
Yes. And it was the 80s, so it was okay to be called a fat naked teenager. But they go in. I mean, what's going through this girl's mind? Did she think she was going to be the next Meryl Streep, or is this just somebody that said, hey, here's $50, you got zero self-esteem, get in there into that shower? Because nobody's coming in and actually auditioning for this part. Nobody's auditioning for this part, Blake. This is such a humiliating role. Not only are we going to have you there blocking off the quote unquote attractive females, but then Pee-wee, who is a geek, who is a mutant, is going to scream for you to get your fat A out of the way, or move lard A. I can't remember what he said.
That's what it says. GD, will you move it?
Yeah, I mean, get out of here. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, it's so ridiculous, but I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about it. I think these guys created this room. They studied the structure. They said, hey, if we get through this center block wall right here, we know the shower's right there, then we can move the pipes up and be able to see. So I like it. I think it's genius. But when it finally happens, Pee-wee ruins it. And this is what I love about these guys, is they're always busting each other's backs. They're always making fun of each other and playing pranks. They knew Tommy Turner was going to get in trouble. They knew he could be expelled, but the prank outweighs the consequences of what can happen. He gets mad because he sticks his tongue through there and the girls put soap on there. So then, guys, you don't have to use your imagination. You can imagine what and then he's talking and Billy's telling Pee-wee, no, she's coming for it. And it's bow breaker. And she goes, when she grabs him, it's amazing. And they leave him there. They run away because they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to get in trouble, and they leave him for and he gets away, and she's looking through there. It's amazing, and it leads to is this the best scene in the movie, Blake?
It's hard not to say that this isn't the funniest scene in the movie because you end up laughing just like these guys.
I mean, the guys in the back are like the head coach there, the head basketball coach. He keeps a stone face for a while, but these two clowns are snickering and laughing, and they've got like this English professor as the principal. At least he sounds English to me. Maybe he's just has such a whiny voice that it sounds English to me. I don't know.
Hey, Ronnie, Seinfeld alum too.
He does. He runs the theater.
Yeah, he loses his button in the Lost and Found, and Mr. Harwood.
There you go. She's sitting there, and I'll do it the best I can clean. She's trying to explain to him that she saw certain things on this body part, and all she needs is 5 boys in a lineup so she can pick out that one. And she's like, if they're embarrassed, they can put bags over their heads. And that's when the head coach loses it. And then this guy, he can't stand it anymore. When the young coach starts talking about, we can put up wanted signs. We'll put up wanted signs saying, have you seen this? Last scene hanging around the girls' bathroom. He dies. She realizes, hey, there's no point in me being here. They have humiliated me. And she leaves out. And all 4 of these people are just dying laughing at the ridiculous scenario that she's put there. The movie shifts to Porky's then. Then we get to business. Now we're getting to business because Mickey wants to go out to Porky's. Tommy, Meat, Tim, and Pee-wee, they all have money. They go in there, and Porky's is the most outrageous backwoods southern place, nasty as you can be. I would not step foot in a place like Porky's because you're probably going to get stabbed to death and die.
I think you got to go to Porky's at least once in your life, Ronnie. I'm not gonna say I would never step foot in there. I think I would definitely go in there once just to say I've done it.
Now it's a place where they had no care in the world that these guys didn't have proper ID. They knew Pee-wee's ID was fake. They knew that, but when it comes time for them to pay for girls, Porky also knew they were underage, and he was going to mess with them and just drop them into the bottom of the lake or the swamp, I mean. So by him doing that, what he really did is he started the conflict between himself and Mickey, because not only did they drop him in the bottom, they humiliated him outside. You know, his brother, the sheriff, shows up and he busts the light out and tells him I need $50, and they start digging out money, and he busts another light out, and he humiliates every single one of them. And then tells them to get out of town. Don't come back. He takes their money and they leave. And Mickey's got a chip on his shoulder the whole time because Mickey introduces himself early on as another potentially, definitely racist character from the South that is a wild redneck and is going to do whatever it takes to put himself in danger in every situation. So that puts him going back after Porky time and time and time again, getting beat on time and time and time again. So that's the main conflict of the movie. Here's another great scene, Blake, because what we haven't talked about when it comes to Meat is he's the smartest guy at that school. He's got scholarship offers from 60 different colleges, and he wants to go to Yale. But he gets the note saying he wasn't accepted to Yale, so he gets drunk, even though he doesn't drink, and he passes out in this bowl of chili. He passes out in this bowl of chili right as the cops walk in, and the cops walk up, and I'll give it to Billy. Billy had a great excuse. He goes, my friend here's a diabetic. He goes, how many cubes of sugar does it take to really bring Anthony back? 2 cubes. He puts those cubes of sugar in his mouth, and all Meat does is throw it up before he falls back into that tub of chili there. And it takes Brian really walking up and telling him, hey, this guy right here just got broke up with his girlfriend. You guys would want to have a drink too. And even though this is out of order, this is when the gang really accepts Brian into the fold, is when he saves Meat like that. Because before that, the only thing they had to go by was Tim here being anti-Semitic and trying to fight Brian every time he can, saying he wants to fly some kites. And Brian hit him with the perfect retort, you're too stupid to be a good bigot. And they have a fight out in the courtyard where Brian just beats poor Tim to death. And you get to see the conflict in all of his friends where they're like, oh, God. Tommy goes, oh, God, this guy's a ringer. And then Pee-wee's like totally behind Tim. Come on, Tim, kick his tail. Get him.
Yeah. I mean, because it's your boy. You always back your boys. You know, even if they're in the wrong, you got to have your friends back, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. So you're right. And you can see the look on their face in that previous still, Ronnie. Like they don't agree with what he's doing or what he's saying at all.
No, they absolutely don't. And here's just more of Tommy and Beulah early on in the movie. As we start to get towards the end of the movie, Blake, Mickey shows up all beat up, and Ted, the sheriff's like, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to go beat up everybody at Porky, shoot them or whatever. And Brian goes, it doesn't have to be tonight. Nobody has to lose their job. And they come up with the perfect plan to just destroy this guy's bar, to disable what he does for a living, to take away what he loves the most, which is I'm guessing it's a brothel, Blake, brothel slash, because they talk about the pig pen upstairs. So, women are getting sold. So it's a strip club slash brothel slash bar. And the plan, I just want to get another shot of the inside of this dump. Guy in a wheelchair. The plan is simple. They go out there and they cut the legs off of the bar. They hook to it with a boat and they hook to it with a tow truck here, and they pull the whole building into the water. It collapses. Porky dives out of there. It's hilarious seeing him dive out of there into the water. Destroys the bar completely. And the movie ends in typical 80s fashion with a chase scene. They're like, they've disabled all the cars at the Wallace Sheriff Station. They're chasing them. And this movie introduced a lot of things from old movies that I just find very interesting, like the county line. They're almost at the county line, G did. All right. So it's like that mythical line.
Hit that pig whistle.
It's that mythical line back in the 50s where if you cross the magical line, the cops can no longer do anything to you. So you can really do anything you want as long as you get across that line and out of their jurisdiction. And they've got the whole school set up right here. They've got Angel Beach Police Department there. Ted's there. So when they come rolling in, like the whole school is there to welcome them in. And there you got Mickey after his beating. You got Ted taking it out on Porky like he did the kids earlier in the movie, and tells him to get his fat A back across that line and out of there. And I mean, Blake, it's the perfect scenario. Kids, hijinks, lesson learned, get revenge on the bad guy. I mean, I just love the ending of this movie so much. What'd you think?
Ronnie, we know how big Mongo is. Porky's brother there is in Blazing Saddles. Like, look at him next to Porky. I mean, I ain't talking about Porky's weight. Like, Porky's tall guy too,
Porky's a big youngin. Porky is a big youngin.
No, but to answer your question, without actually killing Porky and the people that work there, I think this is one of the most satisfying endings you can get. I mean, their whole, in American Pie, it's all about losing their virginity. In this one, it's about going to Porky's, drinking, and getting with women. And, unlike American Pie, you really don't have that conflict. Their good time gets ruined by these miserable adults, and for them to come back and not only embarrass Porky, because you left out a part, we talked about Billy, I think, who doesn't have a big role. He's the one who actually goes into the bar at the end and hits the suey call and says, Porky, the boys from Angel Beach are outside. We're ready. And they did that to draw them out so they could tear the place down, because they didn't really want to hurt anybody. So that was their way of getting everybody out of the bar and tearing their whole business down. And then they had multiple boats go. And I love, and it's realistic. The Everglades, it really does run right by the road the whole time. And they're just going down the road in the boats until they get to the county line. I mean, it's just, and you think when Porky and his brother get to that county line, like, what's going to happen now? And they give them the same treatment. They bust out the headlights. He puts that shotgun up to the pig ornament he's got on the front of his car, like Lincoln Hawk, and over the top. He blows it away. He takes their money. He tells him to get his fat back across the county line and don't ever come back to Angel Beach. And it is one of the most satisfying endings ever, up until Pee-wee gets laid.
Well, you can't be. Look, I have went on record as saying any movie that has action during the credits is a great movie. Nobody has yet to show me a movie that has action during the credits not being a great movie. That is so loud. What you have right there is this movie is ending. I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. You have this movie ending, all right, and it's going through the credits. And Pee-wee's like, and they're like, come on, Pee-wee, Wendy's waiting for you on the bus. So he gets on the bus, and everybody's standing outside the bus cheering on Pee-wee as he finally gets a girl. And it shows Bow Breaker hiding in the woods. She's been stalking Tommy, and she comes out. Maniac.
She's a teacher, Ronnie. She's a teacher.
She goes.
She's a teacher.
She's running from 50 yards back, and look at these kids in fear. You think Jason Voorhees or Leatherface is running up on him. I'm gonna let it play the whole time right here, but she's trying to get his pants down so she can identify him. It's perfect. It's perfect. What a way to end this movie, Blake. Oh, I got tears in my eyes from laughing. Her coming out of the woods, she has lost her freaking mind. How does she not get fired and the young coach gets fired? She assaults a kid in 1954. My eyes are burning and laughing so hard. But that is the best. That might be the best scene. I've said it 100 times in this review. That might be the best scene in the movie where she comes out of the bushes. Why is she hiding in the bushes? How long has she been in the bushes? What if they had never come back there? Would she just been in the bushes? I mean, it's crazy. Oh, it could be even crazier if she'd attacked him at Porky's.
This is a 10 out of 10.
This is definitely 8.5 out of 10 for me. I love Porky's. I'm always going to love Porky's. I love the edited version. I love the unedited version. I love the trilogy. I own it on VHS. I own it on DVD. I love these movies. These movies are what the 80s are all about. These movies are what being a teenager is all about. Let's check out the Twitch and see what we got going on there, Blake. See if we got a little interaction. We've had a lot of interaction tonight, not only in the YouTube chat, but with the Twitch. Let's see what we got.
Randy Santel donates $1 and says, I lived with my mom till I was 40 and I just turned 40 yesterday.
Pretty sure he sent that last time, Blake.
Well, he really wants to get that message across.
Randy Santel donates 25 cents and says, I hate you guys, but I will beat Lizzo's fat ass to protect Miley Cyrus.
Wow.
There you go. Randy, thanks for the 25 cents.
Thanks,
All right,
man.
one more from Twitch. My eyes are burning so bad right now from laughing. I'm sorry, guys. This can't be YouTube appropriate. What is this next one? Oh, our old friend.
Zach Cherry donates $5 and says, I hated being on your show, but I am going to donate you more money than I was ever tipped as a waiter.
Hey, thanks.
Also, if you guys are ever in the area, I will take you to Burger King.
Hey, there you go, Blake. We've made a friend. Thank you, Cherry. We really appreciate it. For everybody that came out in the chat tonight, thank you guys. I mean, let me go through real quick. I know we had Bud and Nick were in the chat. Backtrack Cinema, Return of the Living Fled. Go check out all these people's channels if they have channels.
They definitely have channels. Go check them out and subscribe.
Yeah, everybody's not watching this right now. Head over to the live stream with Nick and Bud and all them. And Blake, is there anything else to say about this? Oh, yeah, I guess we should say this. We've got a Commando review coming out. We're going to do that this weekend. Worst number 2s is coming out. I promise next week it'll be out. And next week, what's on the list?
When you say worst number 2s, it's nothing to do with the bathroom.
No, it's not bathroom related. It's the worst part 2s to really good movies.
Yeah.
Like a really great original movie, and then they made a sequel that was complete garbage. That's what we're talking about when we say that. Oh, Blake, 1 week from today, Bruce Willis, Hudson Hawk review. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite Bruce Willis movies because of how silly it is. A lot of Nintendo references. I like it. A lot of people think it's his worst movie. Hey, it's Frank. I'm glad I missed the show. Well, Frank.
So are we.
I love Frank. I really do. I like that guy. You know, earlier in the show, you asked who did all the editing. You know, Frank didn't do any editing.
You don't think so?
No, it's all Darren. Darren told me that in secret. He told me not to tell anybody. All right, for Blake, I'm Ronnie. Time to press the button.
I think it's time to hit the button. I'm going to go check out Nick Push's stuff.